my name is Dara Pilato. I can't sit still. I need to move around. Is anyone here from Long Island? Can they raise their hand? Yes. I also want to know if there are any athletes in the room that plan on playing college, and any business students. Oh, one? Okay, rock on. I'm talking to you then. Really, only one? I was in the BS MBA program. It's a combined program where you can do your undergrad and your graduate at the same time. I highly recommend it. I think part of college for both parents and students is it's sort of threefold. One, how you get there. Two, what do you do when you're there? And three, and probably most importantly, what happens when you're done? For me, how I got here, like I said, I'm from Long Island. I wanted to be in a place that reminded me of home. I didn't want to be out in the middle of nowhere with the cows, you know, and my book and have a nice day. So here, location's definitely key. You're in the middle of everything, which is great. And then how I got here, I just sort of came on campus, my mother and I, no formal anything. I just walked around. Didn't even let anyone know I was here. Looked around, and I was fortunate enough to know, yep, this is my second home. Applied, and that was the end of it. The second part of how I got here was, luckily they have a D2 athletic program. Talked to the coach, said, hey, you know, I kind of want to come. Can you help me out? Met the team, got an athletic scholarship, and I was here in August that summer for orientation, and the rest was sort of history. What happens when you're here, and key to, you know, what brought me to where I am today is, it's twofold. It's academic and it's personality building. I can sit here and tell you teachers, you know, bring real world experience. I can tell you they care about you, but examples are, you know, really what drive it home. So I'm just going to give you examples. Came here as a freshman. All I knew was I wanted business. No idea what part of business, just business. I have no artistic ability, so that was, you know, shot right out the door. So freshman year, it's a liberal ed school. I figured if I'm wrong, I don't like business, maybe I really am an artist somehow, I got to take the class anyway, so I'll figure it out. So you have that flexibility, and luckily I was right with the business part. And then one of the teachers said, hey, you know, there's this program, it's called this BS MBA program, and you can actually get out of here in 5 years with 2 degrees. You might want to look into it. Saves yourself a year of having your nose in a book and really being worried. I said, sure, you know, I'll look into it. That's how I got into the program. So back to examples is they do, especially in the business program, teachers, Dr. Matthews is sort of one of my favorites, where you went to class, it was a small business class, how to build your own business and can't say it right. Anyway, with that said, you had to build your own business, which I had no intention of doing. That wasn't my goal, but he said, you know, you got to take the class, here you go. In the class, and he said, you know, here's the concepts. We had the book, we read the book, we had the concepts down, we took the test on it, but it wasn't about that. He had done it himself. And he said, all right, great idea, looks great in the book, guys, but you're wrong. The book's wrong, you're wrong. And he taught us lessons and ideas that were applicable to our lives and really put his own experience into what he taught us and what he told us. It wasn't just that book. The other thing about the teachers in the business program is they're interested in you as a person. You hear everyone say, you know, the small class sizes, you're not a number, you aren't, you're a name, you're a face, you're a person. Well, Barry Hughes was one of the income tax teachers. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, sophomore year, and I'm learning about income tax, which is thrilling, let me tell you. So we're sitting here in this classroom of, man, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 kids, and he walks in the room, 5 minutes late, which I probably shouldn't tell you, but anyway, walks in the room, takes the newspaper, Times Union actually, slams it on the desk in front of me, and I'm looking at him like, oh, Lord, what happened? He goes, what the heck happened last night? No idea what he's saying. He's like, you guys lost? Big sigh of relief. We had a volleyball game the night before. He knew we had a volleyball game the night before, knew that it was a very important game, and that was basically the deciding factor, or a partial deciding factor of whether we continued on in the league. And he took the paper and looked it up and realized we lost and gave me a hard time for 5 minutes about it. So So needless to say, they care. It's not a line. We're not telling you that the teachers care, and they do. I mean, he went through that effort for me. And I was by no means a tax expert or any, outstanding student in that class. So there you go. The other part of it about St. Rose is they want to help you develop, and you heard that. They cultivate you as a person. It's not only about the books. I came here, and you're hearing a lot about our academic sides of it. You're hearing a lot about the teachers. There's more than that. There's a million clubs. There's athletics. And I came here, and I started in the Student Events Board. There's SA. Omar was president. There's semi-formals. There's comedians. There's coffee houses. If you're here for art and music, you can not only do that in the classroom, but there are events on campus for you to give out and show the campus what your abilities are. We've been to Boston. We've been to New York City a bunch of times, musicals. I mean, you're not just here to do that. They're here to cultivate you as a person. So you didn't just sit here and say, yeah, I learned something. I went places. I did things around campus. I had an active voice in what's going on here. They have this big, there's a carnival not a carnival, but like a fair they have every year just for the students with live music and bands. I mean, you have a life. It is a quality of life. As part of Res Life, you have, if you do choose to stay on campus, you have resident assistants here looking out for you at all times, people to ask questions to. You're not on your own just getting an education. That's, probably common for both parents and kids. And your kids aren't, just standing here. They're gonna have things that are fun and that'll make them better people for what they do after. And that does lead into what happens after, you're here. Barry Hughes, that same teacher, said, he knew I was in business. It turned out that I wanted finance and financial planning. That's where I landed. And he said, there's this guy on the board. He was part of St. Rose. I'll have you meet him. I said, okay, sure. And luckily, he was at an event at President Sullivan's house that I was invited to because of my participation in SCB and these other events. And the guy happened to be Dan Nolan. The gym that you are going to be going into, he was part of building it. And Barry Hughes said, here in President Sullivan, and they said, here, this is Dan Nolan. He's going to tell you about this, this small little company called Goldman Sachs, and how you can be a part of it. Long story short, aftermath, I walked out of St. Rose in 4 years with 2 degrees. I worked for Goldman Sachs, and that was all because of St. Rose, and that was because the teachers cared enough to drop my resume off. The St. Rose gave me the education to have a resume that was solid enough to get me in there, and the skills that I developed through all these events at St. Rose gave me the personality to be in there to interview and say, I want to be a part of the company and I want to do something. And just as a little side note, that same teacher, Dean Carlson, who told me 6 years now, 6 years ago, said, hey, what about this BS MBA program? Sent me an email after the, all know how the economic environment is right now. Goldman had that 10% cut. The next day, I had an email from Dean Carlson that said, I'm scared to ask, are you okay? He didn't have to do that, and luckily I am, and I'm still there, but that's the difference between St. Rose and going to some big school that you really are, and